Finding my leadership style. If left to my own devices, there would be no leadership style because I've always been terrified of leadership. But we're all humans, we're all full of conflicts, right? And even though I, growing up, was always scared to assume any kind of leadership role, there was some little spark in me that always wanted to do something and maybe be out there in front of a crowd. When I was in elementary school and middle school, I tried out for the school plays, and I usually got the big role. And somehow being on the stage and not being quite myself allowed me to open up and blossom. But when I went to high school, I became even shyer. You know, adolescence is a difficult time. But there were still things that I liked to do, even though I would always shy away from leadership roles. Between my junior and senior year, the advisor of the school newspaper, I was on the school newspaper, asked me to be the editor-in-chief. And my heart dropped to my feet. I said, whoa, I'm going to have to think about that. And sadly, I declined that position because I didn't think I could handle being a leader. And she said, okay, well, why don't you be the copy editor? And I was like, that's more my style, behind the scenes. I get to do something, I get to contribute, but I don't have to be out front in a leadership role. So I was the copy editor. And that's how I, from then on, always kind of did things. I preferred to stay in the background. But at some point, I realized, you know, I'm not going to get the things I want out of life, more money, more opportunity, unless I step outside of my comfort zone and move into some areas of discomfort and try to learn about leadership. And that's what this project was all about, learning about different leadership styles. Tonight I'm going to tell you about some common leadership styles, their pros and cons, because there's not one magic bullet to being a leader. You can't act one way all the time and be successful. Leadership in some ways is situational. And so learning about leadership styles will help us all analyze and learn what to do in certain situations in order to be effective. And through the course of this project, I also took a quiz to find out about my overarching leadership style. We all have a comfort zone, and if we stay in our comfort zone, we're never going to learn and grow. So I have an overriding leadership style. It's effective in some situations, but not as effective in other situations. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. But first off, some common leadership styles. The first one is bureaucratic. Does that sound good or bad? Give me a thumbs up or thumbs down.
Down.
Down, right? Bureaucracy, that doesn't have a good connotation. But in certain situations, certain styles are very effective.
Bless
The
you.
bureaucratic leadership style is characterized by somebody who establishes and enforces rules, not necessarily a bad thing, right? And whose decisions are absolute, motivated by discipline. This style is commonly practiced in government and military. Hey, you know, you can't necessarily in an emergency situation take a vote and be collaborative. You may need to make a decision quickly. So this particular style is effective when a decision needs to be made now. And it's also effective in a situation like government, for example, where there's rules, regulations, laws. You don't necessarily, as a leader, have a lot of leeway. You need to give people the correct information so they're following the law, and you need to be clear about what people need to do. So Winston Churchill, up or down, positive, negative, positive connotation. He is known as a great bureaucratic leader. He was decisive and he could be difficult to persuade. However, during emergency times of war, his decisiveness was definitely a positive, a benefit. So rethink bureaucratic. What about authoritative, up or down? Positive or negative connotation? Sarah has a thumbs up, but most everybody looked like they had a thumbs down. An authoritative, although that may sound negative, that leadership style is not necessarily negative and is fitting in a lot of situations. An authoritative person has a big vision. They're able to communicate it and express it to everyone, and they're an authority in their industry. They often have more knowledge than the people do who are following them. So this is a very effective style when a vision is required, or change of vision, or change of direction is required. And it's a highly result-oriented style. It's less effective when people need, detailed guidance, because this kind of leader tends to be a big picture person. And if people don't follow the vision, this may result in conflict. Bill Gates is an example of an authoritative leader. He had a vision for Microsoft. He led Microsoft toward and to that vision. He's an authority in his own industry, and there was a lot of conflict between him and Paul Allen, because Paul Allen, his partner, didn't necessarily follow his vision. Pace setting. Does that sound positive or negative? Positive. This is a style that has been identified as not being very effective. This is the leader who's, come on, get done, get done, results, come on, move. This person has expectations and they embrace new projects. They focus on productivity. They set high performance standards and they walk the walk. They'll do what they expect others to do. It is an effective style when team members are self-motivated and highly skilled, and it results, at least in the short term, in high output, but it results also in a high burnout rate. There may be quality issues. An example of a pace-setting leader was Jack Welch, and he was the CEO of General Electric. He was all about the bottom line. He laid off nearly 100,000 people. GE's value went way up, but in the long term, the company suffered and the value went down. And this particular style is no longer considered to be very effective. So it sounds, we had a thumbs up, it sounds good, and it may be good in some situations. We'll do one more. Affiliative. Does that sound good or bad? Sounds good.
Good.
This is overall considered to be a good leadership style. The affiliative leader creates a cohesive unit by emphasizing teamwork and harmony, focuses on collaboration and emotional needs, creates positive relationships. This style results in increasing morale, repairing broken trust, and working through stressful circumstances. Now, I, in my office, can think of an affiliative leader. Everybody loves her, but she has a hard time giving anybody any kind of negative feedback. It's just not in her personality. And that can result in performance not being what it could be, because we all need real and honest feedback, right? And it can also result in the praise not meaning as much. But overall, if this style can be balanced with constructive feedback, it tends to be a positive style. An example is Joe Torre, the ex-manager of the New York Yankees. He was able to rally the troops and get the best performance out of everybody. So, in terms of myself, where did I fall? I didn't introduce this style, but I fell high in coaching. I like to work one-on-one with people, and when I first became a supervisor, I was on a team that was comprised of people who had recently come out of training. So I was able to work one-on-one with them, coach them, mentor them, move them forward in the organization. But the next team I went to was a team of highly experienced people who were subject matter experts in their field. And I had to adjust and change my style with them if I tried to be the same way I had been with a group of newer employees, I would have driven them crazy. I had to give them more authority, more power, and I had to be more democratic and weigh their opinions because they knew more than I did about their job. So there, like I said, in conclusion, there's no one common leadership style that's the be-all and end-all. We need to adjust our styles according to different situations. And what is a good leader anyway? An effective leader empowers others to accomplish personal goals, contributes to successful completion of group objectives, models behaviors for others to emulate, and provides guidance and feedback to help others improve. So, having matured a little bit, I realized that leadership is a lot more about others than it is about myself. And realizing that has helped me have the courage to try leadership roles and to grow and explore. Thank you.